All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the Employers Healthcare Alliance, I'm Kay Vandervaart. And today we're bringing you Intervent Health. You're going to really want to tune in for this one. This is a unique approach to chronic condition prevention and management. Remember that word prevention. And they're one of the best in the industry. Actually, they're the best in the industry. But we'll just go through a little bit of the webinar. Please remember to raise your hand so that we can pause and take those questions. We'd love this to be interactive. So please feel free to raise your hand, and we'll get those questions to Neil and Chip so that we can go with the flow. Shortly, we'll be introducing Neil and Chip, but just to set the stage a little bit, we're thrilled to have Intervent as part of the webinar series. They are also highlighted in the digital resource library. This webinar will be recorded, and you'll start to see that in little vignettes throughout the LinkedIn posts. But we also have a YouTube channel where you can view the entire webinar for folks that signed up and maybe couldn't make it. Look, we know it's summer. We know that there's a lot of competing things going on. But if you're in Florida, it's pretty hot, so it's a good time to listen to the webinar. So in today's webinar, we're going to cover the employer challenges around healthcare cost, chronic condition, low engagement. How does Intervent get the engagement up so they get the great results that they're getting, the outcomes? Why behavior change is essential to sustainable health improvement. How Intervent supports employees through health coaching, education, engagement, navigation, the whole thing. How can employers use Intervent as part of the broader workforce health benefits and population health strategy? And finally, what are some of the outcome measures that they've received? They're very busy. They've got, I don't even remember how many clients you have, but I know that you're always working with new clients, and we have a large client that we're working on together. So I know that you have these outcomes from 20 years of implementing health promotion, health wellness, disease, chronic condition management. And again, we'll leave some time at the end of this webinar to address any questions that are coming in, but please feel free to raise your hand and ask those questions. So let's get started. So I'd like to introduce Neil and Chip. Neil Gordon at the very bottom of your screen, and then Chip. Neil, you can go first, and then we'll toss it over to Chip.
Great. Thank you very much, Kay. It's an absolute pleasure for me to be able to take part in today's session. I'd like to thank Kay and Bob McCollins for inviting Chip and me to participate in the session. Just very briefly, as far as I'm concerned, I'm originally from Johannesburg in South Africa. That's where I get my strange accent from. Moved to the United States a long time ago in 1987. I'm a board certified physician, a fellow of the American College of Cardiology. I also have a PhD in exercise physiology and a master's degree in public health. In addition to my clinical experience, I've had the privilege of working with numerous small, medium, and large employers over the years. I've also maintained a strong personal research interest, and I've personally co-authored over 130 full-length scientific manuscripts and 8 books on the topic of chronic disease prevention and management. With that in mind, Chip, would you like to do a brief introduction, and then I can, Kay, take over with the slides, if that works for you?
Yeah, I'll do so quickly. Neil, Kay, Daryl, thank you guys for asking us and having us. I'm Chip Fairclough. I've had the privilege of being a CEO in a number of healthcare environments, from medium-sized to very large in more than one part of the country. During that time, I became very impressed with the importance of the culture of the enterprise, in addition to the way in which individual employees happen to be treated. And we'll touch on some of that today. Along with Neil, I'm a co-founder of Intervent, and I'm regularly involved in helping structure and then successfully execute arrangements with our clients. Thank you.
Well, thank you both. And, Neil, I almost had to put another screen on just for your credentials. Obviously an expert in this field and very highly thought of. So, hey, let's get right into it. If you'd like to share your slide deck, we really would like to learn more about Intervent and what makes you, so different. How do you take all of this information that you've gathered throughout more than 20 years and the publications and the research that you've done to bring it to us, the consumer and the employer, and really engage the employees? Let's start with why Intervent Health.
Great. Well, again, thank you very much, Kay. Hopefully you can see my first slide.
Yes,
And
sir.
again, it's an absolute pleasure for Chip and me to speak to you today on the topic of chronic disease prevention and management. We'll also be providing a high-level overview of Intervent, our services, the user experience, etc., for Employers Healthcare Alliance. One of our coaches at Intervent once told me that I should always start my presentations with a somewhat provocative audience poll question. Now, I know that there is no formal polling as part of the session, so people who are listening in can simply write down their answer. But we're all aware of the immense attention that's been focused on GLP-1 medications at the moment. And so the poll question is, given the effectiveness of GLP-1 medications, is lifestyle management, for example, regular exercise and physical activity and healthy eating, still extremely important? And the options you have are yes, no, and I don't know. And if you could write that down, I'll come back to it in a short while. But Kay, what I thought I would do is start off by discussing some of the challenges and the opportunities that face us in the field of chronic disease prevention and management. And then I'll go on to talking more about Intervent. As I proceed, please feel free to stop me and ask questions, and Chip knows that he should feel free to interject at any point along the way. If you stop and think about it for a few moments, we've all been extremely fortunate in that we've seen some pretty impressive technological advances in the field of medicine in our lifetimes. Coming from South Africa, the one that always stands out in my mind is the first heart transplant that was performed by the late Professor Chris Barnard in Cape Town, South Africa, in 1967. Unfortunately, though, as pointed out in the slide, despite these impressive medical and technological advances, non-communicable chronic diseases still remain by far the leading cause of death, disability, and potentially avoidable healthcare costs. What's even more unfortunate is that it doesn't appear that the situation is going to improve significantly in the near future. In fact, there's evidence that we may be headed toward a worsening of the situation. And I say that based on the alarming increase in the prevalence of obesity and related conditions like type 2 diabetes and the metabolic syndrome. So that's the bad news. The good news is that we now know that most of the common chronic diseases are in fact lifestyle related and potentially avoidable. This slide has data from an article published by Dr. Walter Willett from Harvard in the journal Science in 2002. It was entitled Balancing Lifestyle and Genomics Research for Disease Prevention. And we can see in this slide the percent of select chronic diseases that are likely lifestyle related and potentially avoidable is about 91% for type 2 diabetes, 82% for coronary heart disease, a disease that causes heart attacks, 70% for stroke, and 71% for colon cancer. In this manuscript, what Dr. Willett looked at was unhealthy practices, a handful of them, including physical inactivity, incorrect nutrition, cigarette smoking, being overweight, and drinking alcohol excessively. So we know that lifestyle intervention is beneficial. There was another landmark paper published way back in 1994 in the journal Circulation by a friend and colleague of ours, Dr. Bill Haskell, and his colleagues from Stanford University, called the Stanford Coronary Risk Intervention Project. And to cut a long story short, they showed that if you combined comprehensive lifestyle changes with appropriate drug therapy, for example, to control blood pressure, cholesterol, blood glucose levels, it resulted in profound benefits. In their study versus usual care, a 47% slowing of the buildup of blockages inside coronary arteries, and a 39% decrease in hospitalizations for major cardiac events over 4 years.
So Neil, just to summarize what you're saying, to kind of put this in perspective for me, we've made all of these advances with medicine, and there's different treadmills and exercise pieces and all these advancements. But what it comes down to is it's not a magic pill. It's not a magic bullet. We still have to do some of the common sense, increased activity, not smoke, reduce drinking, all of those things. We can't just continue to do that and pop that magic pill or injection, right?
That's 100% correct, Kay. And there's an urgent need for innovative, scalable solutions to help individuals make and adhere to meaningful lifestyle changes and to implement other important aspects of evidence-based care. And that's what I will be touching on shortly, because it brings us to the solutions that Intervent has developed and successfully implemented.
So now let's get back to your question. What's the right answer?
So let me tell you now what we've been doing and the passion that we have for this topic. So essentially, from a high-level perspective, I like to describe our company, Intervent, as a physician-led, global, technology-driven behavior change and population health management company. And essentially what we do is provide proven programs for the prevention and management of multiple chronic diseases and healthcare-related cost drivers, in particular the ones that everyone's very familiar with: heart disease, stroke, diabetes, and obesity, which we consider to be a chronic relapsing condition. I mentioned the Stanford study. What I did in the mid-1990s was collaborate with Dr. Haskell and the Stanford investigators to take the protocols that they had implemented in that study, modify them so that they could be implemented at scale in real-world situations. And that's what led to the formation of Intervent, all aimed at implementing solutions that help optimize health, well-being, and productivity, while at the same time reducing potentially avoidable healthcare costs. If you go to our corporate website,
excuse me for butting in, but some of the content on your slide is not showing on the screen.
I think, Chip, that's because it's not meant to be showing.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to be sure we were tracking. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
Animation. So if you go to our corporate website at interventhealth.com, you'll see that we pride ourselves on being credible, trusted, and proven. And those core values are reflected by multiple facts. For example, our widespread acceptance by mainstream medical leaders, representing over 150 medical centers that we've served or currently serve, in particular through our participation in large landmark multi-center clinical trials. Those are big clinical trials funded by the likes of the NIH and Patient-Centered Outcomes Research Institute, in total for over $100 million. And then also the fact that there have now been over 120 published scientific abstracts and manuscripts documenting benefits in terms of improvements in multiple risk factors, clinical variables, self-reported health status, and return on investment. For those who are interested, we can provide a listing of all of the publications. This slide is intended to summarize very briefly some of the findings from a few of the many studies. For example, in one of the studies, there was a 79% median completion of expected telehealth coaching sessions over 3 years, so very high compliance with the scheduled sessions. We've documented our ability to actually reverse certain chronic cardiometabolic conditions. Now, some people don't like.
I think Neil froze up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of the studies, 31% of individuals with the metabolic syndrome were able to reverse the condition. They no longer met the criteria for diagnosis of the metabolic syndrome after 12 months of participation. In another study, 45% of individuals with pre-diabetes normalized their blood glucose level. That was 6 months of program participation, all with a focus on lifestyle intervention. In one of our earlier studies, in fact, 37% of individuals with type 2 diabetes were able to normalize their blood glucose level with lifestyle intervention alone, not with medications. That's not to say that medications aren't very important, they are, but that was with 12 weeks of intervention. There have been independent third-party conducted randomized clinical trials. In one such study, there was a 27% greater relative risk reduction for heart disease with our program versus the program offered by a leading academic center. Our programs, this is our telehealth coaching programs, have been linked to a 40% decrease in non-fatal stroke, non-fatal heart attack, or vascular death over 3 years. When it comes to return on investment, the very first study that we published many years ago showed a 130% return on investment. This was over 2 years. So for every dollar spent, there were $2.30 that was saved. And then we have data. This is from 18,000 consecutive participants in the telehealth coaching program, showing very high participant satisfaction and net promoter scores. I'm going to go on to talk about the value proposition for employers, but Kay or Chip, if you have any questions or anything you'd like to interject, please do so.
I think the one question that I have is, so you have a lot of outcomes and they're all top-notch, high quality. Why should I choose Intervent over another chronic condition management program? What makes you all different? I mean, the outcomes speak for themselves, obviously, but what really makes it different from another program?
Hey, later on, I'm going to show you a slide which talks to differentiators and proprietary features, and in many of them. But in reality, there is no one single differentiator that makes Intervent unique. Rather, it's the credible, trusted, and proven manner in which we've incorporated, implemented, and successfully executed all of the core components that are needed to provide superior service and achieve consistently reproducible positive outcomes and participant satisfaction. And then, like you said, the proof of the pudding is in the results.
Neil, if I may, I mentioned a predisposition toward really liking to understand company culture and a host of other things. The other thing that makes us unique is that we got two teams of people. One group of people is built to serve the needs of individual employees as they go along their journey, in most cases, of changing habits they've already got, which is, we all know, is really hard work. But the other group of people are specialized in helping the organization understand itself better and helping tailor the implementation and ongoing operation of our programs in your culture in a method that produces the kind of statistics that we'll be seeing later. Each company is its own individual personality, and we try to appreciate that. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Chip. So from a value proposition perspective, really the value proposition is that we help employers protect their most valuable asset, which in reality is the health, well-being, and productivity of their employees. And we do so while simultaneously reducing potentially avoidable healthcare costs. It's our belief that high-tech, high-touch approaches, such as the approach that we leverage, are the smart way to empower individuals to better prevent, manage, and live successfully with health risks and chronic conditions. When we work with employers, we use very formal structured approaches, and I'll come back to that in a while. And in many instances, it's in collaboration with other partners and vendors involved in initiatives. So, for example, as part of the Employers Healthcare Alliance, we'll be partnering with a variety of other partners. There was a presentation as an example by Medwell, and there's integration between what we do and what they do. So how do organizations and employers go about this? The first step is understanding the extent and the magnitude of the problem, the chronic disease problem, and how it affects productivity and health in their organization. And there are a variety of approaches that we use for that. The one is to leverage data, like if it's available, medical and pharmacy claims data. But the other approach is to utilize health risk assessments, either our own health risk assessment or the health risk assessments of others. I'm not going to speak in any detail to health risk assessments, but they benefit the organization from an aggregate reporting perspective, and then there are reports that are generated for the participant, which benefits the participant. So that's the first step, where you identify the problems. Now you have to move on to resolve the issues that have been identified. And this is where Intervent and our program offerings can help in a variety of different ways. I'll be talking more about this in a short while, but there are two core sets of intervention-related offerings. The one are what we refer to as self-help or self-paced digital coaching programs, where a person participates in a program over a certain period of time, and they don't necessarily have to interact with a live human coach. It's a self-paced digital coaching program, and we have a variety of different programs on a variety of topics dealing with lifestyle and chronic conditions. The other solution that we have is the live telehealth coaching, typically performed in a one-on-one format, but also available as part of group coaching, and I'll be elaborating on that in a short while. The current core focus of the services that Intervent will be providing for Employers Healthcare Alliance is the interventions, the digital and in particular one-on-one telehealth coaching. We are able to provide comprehensive program offerings where you're addressing multiple behaviors and conditions all as part of one program, or we can provide condition-specific programs. For example, a program targeting diabetes prevention. Our particular program was recently very successfully used by all participants in the Canadian diabetes prevention program, with very favorable outcomes. About 41% of the individuals reversed their pre-diabetes with 1 year of participation. The scientific manuscript's in review and will be published hopefully shortly. That was in 2,133 individuals, either at high risk for diabetes or with pre-diabetes. We have a diabetes self-management education and support services offering, comprehensive offering, with the option of actually including the provision of blood glucose monitoring devices and supplies. Weight management has always been a major focus of what we do. We've typically placed great emphasis on the lifestyle and behavioral component, but now with the introduction of the effective medications like the GLP-1s, we've integrated our service offering with GLP-1s and other medications in a variety of ways. It's important, though, and this relates to the audience poll question in the beginning, to know that pharmacotherapy is an adjunct to lifestyle and behavior change and not vice versa. This is a very busy slide. I'm not going to go into the details, but it's got data from a publication in a medical journal in January of this year, where essentially they pointed out that about 50% of individuals who start on weight management medications stop within the first 12 months. And interestingly, by about 1.5 years after stopping with GLP-1s, most of the people have regained all of the weight, and their various cardiometabolic parameters like blood glucose, cholesterol levels, blood pressures have returned to normal. So you really have to go have returned to pre-baseline values, should I say. Also, interestingly, individuals on GLP-1s who stop them regain the weight quicker than you would expect with other weight loss methods. One of our clients is Max's Global Benefits Network, a network of over 100 insurance companies in over 100 global markets. We, the exclusive partner for certain chronic disease prevention and management services. They published a Viewpoint article a short while ago and interviewed me for it. And I'll read you what I said. I said, health coaching is an important intervention that can be used to help avoid or navigate GLP-1 side effects, promote GLP-1 adherence, boost effectiveness, and importantly, prevent weight regain once a patient stops taking the drug. Promoting a healthy lifestyle and long-term behavior change is key to success. And that's why the answer to that poll question is clearly that yes, lifestyle management is still extremely important. I'm going to go on to talk a bit about our technology and the user journey, but again, I'll take a break to see if Kay or Chip have anything to add, or if Kay has any specific questions that you would like us to address before proceeding.
I think Daryl has a question.
Great. Thank you. I can't see anything that's typed in the way I'm sharing. So
hang on, sorry, I was on audio, so I'm sorry. Hey,
no problem.
Neil, I apologize. Can you expand upon the video versus the one-on-one and kind of like the cost? Are you going to talk about the cost differences, or because that it seems like that might be an Intervent light to start with the videos for an employer, and they could work up to the one-on-ones, but just didn't know if that was a possibility.
Yes, I'm happy to talk about it. And it's not really videos. It's a digital program that a person is able to participate in. It's a comprehensive offering, but they're able to do it online and through our native app without having to interact with a human as a component of it. There are education modules which are interactive and include videos. Obviously, that version of the program is less expensive, because with live coaching, your major cost is the cost of the coach. What we have seen is that purely digital programs are beneficial, but you achieve more impressive results when live coaching is part of it. Now, where the great opportunity lies, and I will be addressing this later on in the presentation, is involving AI in both the digital version and the coaching version. And I'll be telling you in a short while about some of the exciting work that we're doing in that area. But yes, definitely, if it's purely what we refer to as electronic services, so minimal or no interactions with a live health coach, it's going to be very inexpensive. The coaching programs aren't expensive, but they obviously cost more. What we found uh, clients often do, they, typically they start with the comprehensive offering that includes everything, but what clients will do if they want to dip their feet in the water is start with the health risk assessment, and bundled into the health risk assessment is the ability for individuals to access the purely digital offering. Hopefully that helps.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks. And Chip's really the expert on that, but because of time, I won't ask him to comment. We're happy to go into that in more detail with anybody, and I would leave that to Chip. Now, it's also important to understand that we've developed, we own and manage a proprietary digital and telehealth technology platform. It's a platform that's unique in a number of ways. One of the ways is that it's a single platform that can be successfully leveraged to address multiple lifestyle factors, risk factors, behaviors, chronic conditions, and other health-related cost drivers. And as I've already alluded to, it can do so as part of a single comprehensive offering or offerings focusing on one lifestyle factor or one condition. We also implement the services in a variety of different settings, but a key point is that in order to ensure reproducible outcomes, we use very formal, structured, systematic approaches, and the 4 pillars or corner posts of that approach are shown in the slide. It's assess and intervene, engage and support, track and monitor, analyze and report. And I'll go through these very quickly. We've already spoken about assessing and using claims data if it's available, data from screenings, health risk assessments. We've also spoken about the different interventional offerings spanning the spectrum from your digital coaching to the live coaching, all with the ability to provide the services virtually using telehealth. And very early on, in fact, in the early 2000s, we showed we could achieve at least equivalent results with telehealth versus on-site, face-to-face, in-person coaching. To engage and support, we've developed intellectual property that's deployed. For example, a person is able to access a variety of engaging resources, and I'll show you some of this in a while, during the coaching calls or in between coaching calls to support the coaching process. We help our clients deploy behaviorally oriented, targeted communications and outreach. And then either ourselves or, for example, as part of initiatives like the Employers Healthcare Alliance, in collaboration with other partners, we integrate health and wellness campaigns, challenges and gamification, group webinars, incentives and rewards. We've spent a lot of time focusing on the integration with various wearables and tracking devices, be it activity trackers, connected scales, blood pressure monitors, blood glucose monitors. Person receives messaging in response to their values, and importantly, our coaches are able to leverage that data for coaching purposes, and then analyzing data and reporting back both on an individual basis to the individual participant, but to the employer or other groups on an aggregate basis is a core component of ours. I think I've already mentioned the core service offerings, the risk assessments, the live coaching, chronic condition management. Remote patient monitoring refers to leveraging the various devices, the challenges, incentives, and the various analyses, again, all aimed at helping individuals to better prevent, manage, in some cases reverse, and live successfully with health risks and chronic diseases. I'm not going to go through this. This got to the question that Kay had asked earlier about differentiators. And I'm sure we can share these slides, but there are differentiators and proprietary features at every step along the way. I'm going to now talk about the user journey. Why don't I do this quickly, Kay, if it's okay with you and Chip, and then I'll stop talking for a while. The actual user journey varies depending on the precise initiative and what we're trying to accomplish. This is, though, an example of an engagement and behaviorally oriented coaching journey that's often used with employers and their employees. So we've developed intellectual property that's deployed at each step along the way to assist in identifying individuals who can benefit, structured participant outreach, engaging and enrolling people in the program, registering them on our platform, or it may be that they register on another platform, for example, Medwell, and then come into our platform via other means such as single sign-on. There's always some form of intake assessment so that you can coach in a responsible way. We've then been dating back to 1997. We've integrated numerous evidence-based algorithms and more recently AI to take that data and in real time risk stratify individuals so you know how to interact with them, and then to formulate personalized evidence-based goals and care plans that the coaches help the person implement. So the coach doesn't have to sit there doing this. It's automatically done for them, and then they can modify it based on input from the participant, their own input from the participants, doctor or other providers in some cases. There's the protocols for syncing the devices, and then the coaching. And as part of the coaching, we leverage a lot of what's been learned about behavior change. There are a variety of different behavior modification strategies that are embedded throughout the program, throughout the reports, the platform, the interactions with the participant. Big emphasis on motivational interviewing, for example. With the live coaching, there are one-on-one appointments that are set up with the participant on a given day at a given time. Coach places a call to the person, and then the coach is guided by a platform and coaching. The person can interact with the coach in between those sessions. There are protocols and automated approaches for identifying people who need to be referred back to their doctor, may not be on appropriate medications, may not be up to date with their preventive screenings or vaccinations. The database or the coach picks it up and then they referred back. And then throughout this communications to keep people engaged, all with a focus on lifestyle, so helping people with physical activity, regular exercise, healthy eating and nutrition, weight management, stress management, psychosocial items, and then also helping people learn the skills to better self-manage conditions like blood pressure and diabetes between visits to their doctor. I've already mentioned individuals can access a variety of engaging resources through our platform. We have our own native app, but then all of the programming is done with mobile responsive design. So everything can be accessed by a person off their desktop, laptop, iPad, iOS, or Android phone. Importantly, there's the option to interact with the health coach via secure online messaging between the coaching sessions. That's typically asynchronous. We have our own in-house coach training program approved by the National Board for Health and Wellness Coaching. We've trained thousands of coaches throughout the world. And as I had also alluded to, there's a coaching platform developed over more than a 25-year period of time that helps guide the coaches and makes things very easy for the coach when they coach. I'm going to talk about AI for a minute. I'm near the end of the slides, but before I do, why don't I stop again for Kay and Chip, and if there are other questions.
Yeah, I actually, Neil, was hoping that you would address the AI coaching, because I know that's something new that Intervent has embraced, and actually have a subdivision in your company that I think is going to be it's very futuristic, but in probably a couple of months, it's going to be, I mean, everything's AI generated. So yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing more about the AI coaching.
Sure, be happy to talk about that briefly. So from day one, Intervent went to great
Excuse me, Neil.
lengths
I wanted to reinforce a point of yours earlier. That sequence of activities related to how we go about the behavior change process is also grounded in the proven neuroscience information that clearly indicates it's 10 times harder to change a habit we've already got than it is to establish a new one. And our program is centered around developing new habits and changing old habits. Thank you.
Thanks, Chip. That's important. So from day one, we went to great lengths to set up research quality databases. Data on all participants with their consent is collected during the course of our everyday work in research quality databases, and we've leveraged those databases for many of our publications and research. Those databases now house millions of structured health assessments and data points, including hundreds and thousands of recorded live telehealth coaching sessions, many of which have actually been formally audited by very experienced professional coaches. And that offers a gold mine for training generative AI. For example, to assist health coaches and increase their efficiency and effectiveness, and in the process help decrease the cost of service offerings, but also to function in a somewhat standalone fashion 24/7, 365, for individuals to interact with, not only with questions, but to receive behaviorally oriented coaching. And what Kay mentioned is something that we recently did following an extensive due diligence period, is we've actually formed a new company together with a NASDAQ listed enterprise AI company called Brand Engagement Network, which has patents on some very innovative AI technology. So we formed a new company together with them, and that new, it's a 50-50 initiative. The new company is called Intervent Health AI. And what we are in the process of doing is developing a category defining suite of AI health coach product offerings trained on Intervent's decades of real world clinically validated telehealth interactions and data points and proprietary content, and in the process leveraging the patented technology of the AI company. And at some point we'll be happy to do demos. It's really impressive. I used to always say, people would ask me about AI, and they would say, Neil, will AI replace health coaches, human health coaches? And I'd say AI will never replace human health coaches, but human health coaches who leverage AI will replace those who don't. I think that's still the answer, but quite frankly, I'm not as confident about that answer as I used to be now that I've seen what can actually happen with AI. So you'll be hearing definitely more about that in the future, but we're in the process of embedding it throughout our platform, and it'll be made available to others, including our competitors, so that they can leverage it. Our mission is to benefit the health and well-being of as many people as possible in a favorable way as possible. So we intend partnering with a variety of groups in the space, including competitors of ours. Just near the end, quickly, Kay, I know you were interested in data analytics. That's long been a core competency of ours due to the databases that we've got set up. Numerous reports are generated, in many cases, in an automated way. There is the option for clients to log on and access certain reports themselves 24/7, 365, but they're reports related to health risk assessment, campaign summaries, reports dealing with operations, labs, follow-up, progress, tracking reports, utilization, satisfaction, effectiveness, productivity, um, cohort reports, reports where groups of people are followed over time, um, statistical research-ready reports. We collaborate with clients of ours on a variety of research initiatives, ROI reporting, and much more. In order to enhance engagement, we also assist with behaviorally oriented marketing and communications. And I believe this is my second last slide, but just an example of the kinds of results that we're able to achieve. This is with a larger employer, but please keep in mind we work with small, medium, and large employers. I think the smallest employer we work with at the moment has less than 50 employees. And then at the other end of the scale, very large employers who've worked with, several Fortune 10 employers over the years. But in this case, in the final year with sorry about this, it just told me that my battery is running dead and I better plug in before that happens. So let me rectify that. But this
I
is
love technology, right?
yeah. This is the final year with the vendor that we took over the service from. I'll just focus on the coaching because that's the core service that we'll be providing for the Employers Healthcare Alliance. In their final year, there were 1,755 individuals who enrolled in the coaching program. The first year it went down because we started late in the year, so it wasn't a full year, but you can see how it progressively increased. By year 5, there was a 452% increase to 9,681 individuals, and with a far higher percentage of individuals who successfully completed the program. Return on investment, $3.56 saved for every $1 spent. Very high participant satisfaction, net promoter score of 72.5. This is my final slide. This is a quote from another article published by Maxis Global Benefits Network. This was during the COVID pandemic, just as things were slowing down 2022, but everything is equally applicable today, where I said that the chronic disease pandemic remains the leading cause of premature death, disability, and escalating healthcare costs. What is clear is that in the era of COVID-19 and beyond, and we're in the beyond phase really at the moment, chronic disease prevention and management services are taking on even greater importance and must be viewed as essential. It's not in the slide, but I went on to emphasize that we can't afford anymore to implement programs that aren't effective, that haven't been proven effective. Really what's needed is to leverage programs with well-documented outcomes data, including data that's been published in peer-reviewed medical journals. Our critical mission from Intervent's perspective is to optimize human health and well-being and reduce avoidable healthcare costs by providing the world's most impactful technology-enabled holistic coaching solutions for chronic condition prevention and management. And we couldn't be more excited about doing that in collaboration with the Employers Healthcare Alliance, with Bob and his team, Kay and others who are involved, and all of you with the employers. So on behalf of Chip and myself, I'd like to thank you for giving us the opportunity to present, and Kay, for the remaining time, happy to address any remaining questions. Thank you.
Well, I think let's kind of summarize what the key components are from the Intervent Health presentation we just heard. I think one of the things is we know employers may have wellness programs and health benefits, screenings, incentives, a variety of resources, but I think the challenge is helping the employees understand that it's available and why it matters. When we do HRAs, sometimes in health fairs, we get the healthy of the healthy coming to see how healthy they are, right? And we're really trying to reach those people that really need some assistance, and they might be in denial. I don't know, but it's not always easy to come in when you're overweight or not feeling well and to ask for help. So that's one. I think the other one is Intervent helping really bridge the gap between what's going on, identifying what's going on, and then providing the coaching, whether it's an AI platform or through Medwell with all of they have over 200 webinars and challenges and making it fun. I think lastly, what I'm hearing or seeing from the presentation is, gosh, you get involved with Intervent and the integration is as easy as putting the app on, in the platforms or in the intranet or promoting it, which you guys help do. And then the word of mouth, like you just showed in the last slide, it continually rose because people were seeing benefits. And I think that's where word of mouth is so important. When we open an on-site clinic, for example, people will say, you go first. Well, you only have one time to make a first impression. And so I think your statistics and your outcome measures that are proven over 25 years also speak volumes because people are getting results. Are there any other?
I was going to emphasize that results thing. One of my favorite quotes about our program and others is, it works. It really does. And the reason for that is that we help the employer and the individual understand their truth, understand what they can do to change their truth, and then help them successfully do it. And that's why it works. It really works.
And we implement proven behavior modification strategies throughout the continuum, starting with the marketing, communications, engaging the participants, and then coaching them and keeping them engaged. The objective is to try and meet the participant where they are and then move them along the continuum of behavior change. And Kay, I know you're obviously very familiar with it, but just as an example, leveraging the stages of change model, where you're targeting individuals who are at different stages of readiness in different ways. So for people who aren't familiar with it, the stages of change include pre-contemplation, where a person's not even thinking about changing; contemplation, where they've started thinking, but they're not really doing anything about it; preparation, where they now are getting ready to change; action, where they've started making the change but haven't sustained it; and in maintenance, where the person has sustained a change for more than 6 months. And the nature and intensity of our interventions is customized based on many factors, one of which is the person's stage of readiness to change. Also leveraging other data, such as there's some exciting data that Medwell has that can be leveraged as part of that continuum.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Neil. I mean, when you're looking at stages of readiness to change, reaching out to people that aren't even in pre-contemplation is going to use up some valuable time. So reaching out to those folks that are in the stage of readiness to change, where you make the suggestion, make it easy for them, and then they're ready to take the next step. But, I used to teach smoking cessation, and people used to say, it took me 7, 10, 15, you name the times, right? They're not ready to change until they are ready to change. And you can talk until you're blue in the face. They're not going to put that cigarette down.
And what we do in that case is, instead of trying to get the person to quit, we try and move them, for example, from pre-contemplation to contemplation,
Right.
or from contemplation to preparation, etc.
It's the little
It's a
steps.
totally different approach.
That's the small steps. You don't have to boil the ocean. You can, hey, try walking around the block or take a break during lunch. When you find that, for smoking, if you find that you're reaching for a cigarette right after you have your coffee, change your process. It's all rewiring in the brain and getting them moving from one to the other. And sometimes people just need help doing that, right?
Correct.
So I want to thank you both. Are there any other questions that we have for Neil or Chip before we close out the webinar? Well, thank you both for presenting today. Very interesting concept. And I love how we presented Medwell last week, and this is a continuity of care where Medwell provides some of the solutions, and then it's a nice, easy handoff to Intervent. And that's what we try to do with the Employers Healthcare Alliance, is provide these well-vetted vendor partners to you so that you don't have to go search for them. And Intervent is one of the, if not the most established disease prevention and management programs. So really check it out. You have a couple ways to do so. You can access the webinar through the YouTube channel. You can go on the Employers Healthcare Alliance website. We have it listed right here. Digital Resource Library, Intervent is listed in there. And if all else fails, you can contact me and I'll put you in touch with Neil and Chip and we can have a conversation. So again, I wanted to thank everybody for joining this afternoon. And don't forget about our next summer school series. Next week, it's Integrated Solutions 1, Direct Primary and Virtual Care. And have a great week, everyone. We'll see you again next week at 11 o'clock. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.